7 ways to help you maintain and improve your diet post-transplant. Well, hey, folks, I appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedules to be with us today on the Transplant Helper Podcast / YouTube video series. My name is Jim Merle, and before we begin saying anything today, I want to remind you that I'm not a medical doctor and I cannot give medical advice. I'm simply living as a transplant patient and someone who has been there and am currently doing that. Now, with that said, we're going to be discussing today 7 ways to help you maintain and improve your post-transplant diet. Now, if you're like I am, your diet post-transplant is probably quite a bit different than what it was prior to transplant, and so you're going to be trying to follow after some sort of a diet that was given to you by your post-transplant coordinators and dietitians and nutritionists, and if that looks a lot different than what you're used to, that may be quite challenging. And so what I'm sitting down with you today to do is to help you to maintain that to the best of your abilities. So let's jump right into these 7 points. Hopefully we can move fairly quickly, and hopefully these things will help you to either improve and or maintain that diet. Now, with that said, the first one I want to give you is very simple, and it's going to be very basic. It is follow your diet, sort of. Now, I'm not encouraging you to turn aside from the diet that they give you. As a matter of fact, you need to keep that, if you can, 100% the way that they give it to you. So if your diet listed there is a low salt, low sugars diet, whatever that is, a cardiovascular diet in my case, you need to keep up with that the best that you can. And I'm not denying that. And again, you need to reference what they teach you, not what I do in this case. However, I also understand that you're most likely not going to be able to keep that diet perfectly. And so in that case, what I would rather you do in that case is to keep that diet to the best of your ability. And if you fail on that diet, like you would with a weight loss diet, people would encourage you, don't be discouraged and don't give up. That is, if they tell you, for example, that you need to eat baked chicken on every chance that you get, if you're sitting in a restaurant and the fried chicken looks wonderful and you have a piece of fried chicken, don't feel like a failure. If you're like I am and you're a lover, a connoisseur of cheeseburgers, and you see a cheeseburger there sitting on the grill and your friends and your family, they're all eating the cheeseburgers or the chili dogs and you want one, if you go ahead and eat that, and you won't die, by the way, if you do, but if you go ahead and eat that, understand that you need to step it up and do the best that you can to keep your diet and don't feel as if you're a failure. So keep your diet to the best of your ability, or as I'm saying in this point, keep your diet sort of. Now, with that being said, number 2, keep your diet, and when you fail with moderation. And what I mean by that is, if you make a slip of that diet and you eat the cheeseburger, eat the chili dog, or for me, my main kryptonite or biggest weakness is pizza. And with that, it's very high in sodium, by the way, which we'll mention in a few moments. But if I eat a whole pizza, I probably not lived my life in moderation in that stand. And I'm probably going to eventually, if not in the long term, maybe even in short term, I'm going to pay the price for that. So whatever you're doing with your diet, you need to do that in moderation. And the reason I say that is a lot of times in my life, the way that I'm able to live my life and keep my diet the best that I do is that I understand, okay, if I'm going to have the pizza now, I'm going to have the salad later. Or if I'm going to have the cheeseburger now, I'm going to have the baked chicken or the, if you will, the grilled fish later, because I'm going to have to live that moderate type of life. I'm going to have to be careful. Or if I'm going to have the chili dog now, I'm not going to be able to have the 4 chili dogs I want, you see. That's living after moderation. So that's the second tip. Number 1, follow your diet. Number 2, use moderation. Number 3, avoid most, and that's the key word, avoid most salt and all salt substitutes. Now, you probably already read across this in whatever diet you're on for transplants. You need to avoid salt substitutes because your immunosuppressant drugs are just not going to work with those. They're just not good. But you need to avoid most salt. Now, the reason I say most salt is because, to an extent, your body needs a certain level of sodium in it or in your bloodstream in order to maintain a healthy way of life, a healthy way of living. Now, the way that I'm sure of that is I can tell you about a time I was in the hospital post-transplant. They put me in just for a cold or something like I had, a precautionary thing. And while I was in the hospital there for about a week, the doctors put me in on the standard no-salt diet. Now, that's just protocol. That's just what they do on HTICU, or heart transplant intensive care unit, where they put me every time I go into post-transplant. I was on HTICU. They put me on a no-salt diet. About the third or fourth day, a nurse rushed into my room. She said, "Your blood work looks terrible. We've got to start this IV drip. We've got to put this in you. We've got to get your levels up." I said, "What are you talking about? What level is off?" She said, "You have a very, very low sodium count right now." I said, "Hold up, wait a minute." I said, "The doctor has me on a no-salt diet, a no-sodium diet, and you're telling me my sodium levels are low, even dangerously low. That's not my fault." And so what I did later on that afternoon, when the doctor made his rounds, I told him, I said, "Look, you're not going to run a drip on me during the day to bring my sodium up when you won't allow me to even eat sodium during the day at my mealtime." Of course, he corrected that because he understood my body adjusts very well to sodium. Now, yours may not be the same, but your body in general is equipped, it's built, it's made to make adjustments to the sodium levels. And so in moderation, use salt. Now, one of the best ways to do that is if you're going to cook with salt, don't add it over your food after you're sitting at the table. And, of course, many other ways that can apply, and I'm not going to go into depth. But in basic, avoid most salt and avoid all salt substitutes. Next, be cautious of sugars. Now, most people don't understand this, but sugar is as dangerous, if not in many cases more dangerous, than sodium levels in your bloodstream. Now, I'm going to try to link some videos below and some information below that will help to substantiate that. The medical fields actually substantiate that and understand that today. So I'm going to just link some videos to help you with that. But sugar is very, very dangerous. Someone says, "Well, I've heard of that. You know, it can help cancers to grow and it can cause problems with this." And of course, if someone's a diabetic, it can elevate different levels with their blood sugars and such. I'm talking about more than that. I'm talking about the cardiovascular, the pulmonary system. A lot of systems in your body are oftentimes thrown off kilter, if you will, by eating too much sugar. And so I just want to help you with some videos with that, and you can take that or leave it. But I'm telling you to avoid most sugars and to be cautious with eating too much sugar, especially post-transplant. Again, some of those immune suppressant drugs can cause someone who's never had any problem with diabetes to now have a problem. So certainly you have to watch it because of that. Number 5. This may be comical the way that I say it, but I want to encourage you to change your oil. Post-transplant, change your oil. And what I mean by that, if you're one who, prior to transplant, like I did, liked a lot of deep fried foods, and when you fried them, you fried those in animal fats and vegetable oils and such as that, you need to steer clear of that now. You need to change the type of oils that you use and probably change the way that you cook in those oils. Now, maybe you just need to put a layer of oil on something and bake it or something like that. Maybe you don't need to deep fat fry stuff as much. You need to change your oil. Olive oils, I think, are better than some of those animal fat oils, even better than the canola oils and stuff. But again, do your research on that. Talk to your doctors and your nutritionists and dietitians for that. Don't take my advice, but I know in general, change your oil. Now, let me add to that as a side note. You need to research this one. This is interesting. It is sometimes better, if you're out in a restaurant especially, to get the fried chicken over the baked chicken. You say, "You're crazy." Well, here's the reason. It's better to take in a little bit of oil out in a restaurant than to take the salt content that's put over the, not baked, but put over the grilled products. I made a mistake a while ago, not the baked, but the grilled. The grilled fish, the grilled chickens usually have a very, very high sodium or salt content versus the fried. So if you got to weigh one or the other, take the fried over the grilled in that case, but the baked, which I made a mistake on, the baked is better if you want to remember it that way. Number 6, I think it is, know your body. And that kind of goes back to my illustration from earlier. I know that my body overall handles cholesterols and sodium and things like that pretty well. Now, that's not to say that I need to go all out and just start, eating lard or eating Crisco or anything like that, and certainly not pouring salt down my throat. But at the same time, I know what my body can handle, and so I can use that sometimes to my advantage, not to go past the realm of what I'm supposed to do post-transplant in my diet, but just to understand that I can make some adjustments just to the point to where I'm willing to maintain my diet. Again, keeping that motivation, trying to keep from being discouraged. And I want to add to that, and we'll use this in a whole nother program, that you've got to know your body, because the doctors, as much blood work as they want to do, as many tests as they want to run, you're going to know your body better than anyone. And so I want to encourage you to do that. Recognize what you need in your body. Sometimes you can even feel it. And so just eat what you need at the time, not being addicted to sugars or salts, but eat what you need at the time. Keep things going in. Sometimes small meals are better than large meals, and a number of meals, like 4 or 5 meals a day, are better than 2 or 3, and on and on. They'll teach you that. You already probably know that. I'm just adding to it. Number next. Now, we talked about following our diet, sort of, using moderation, avoiding most salt, being cautious of sugars, changing our oil, knowing our body. But here's the 7th one, which is the one I live by. And I promise you, everyone I sit down with one-on-one in a room, talking to them as the transplant helper, I like to tell them this: flush, 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 flush. You say, what in the world? Drink water. Drink water. There's no reason in wasting your sugars on soft drinks. There's no reason in raising your heart rate by drinking a lot of caffeines and such as that. There's no reason in doing a lot of things when you could be flushing your bodies with water. You know, again, if I've eaten that pizza that's high in sodium, one of the ways I can help to counteract that a little bit is by the water that I drink, the water content. That's going to keep my kidneys healthy. That's going to keep all sort of toxins and all sort of bad things, if you want to call it that, flush from my bloodstream, flush from my body. So I drink a ton of water. Now, that's not just to make me to swell up or to pick up fluid. And again, take the advice of your doctor. You may be a person who holds a lot of fluid. They may put you on a diet that restricts your intake of liquids. Keep up with that. Be sure of that. But if you're going to choose to drink something, drink water. It's good for you. I live in the South, and we live in Alabama. I live in a town that happens to be over, I think they call it an aquifer, whatever that is. But nonetheless, I get my water from a well. It's filtered. Once it comes into my house, it's good, clean water. It tastes good, especially when it's cold. I like it. So I drink tons and tons of water. So maybe these 7 tips, and I'll just go back through them again. Follow your diet to the best of your ability, sort of. Use moderation. Avoid most salts. Be cautious of sugars. Change your oil. Know your body. And flush, 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 flush with water. Maybe these things can help you in some way. If they have, why not subscribe to this channel, or check me out on Twitter. I like talking back and forth with people on Twitter. You can find me there on Twitter as you see it in the corner of the screen here, but it's a transplant_help. That's the transplant helper, but it's listed as transplant_help. If you want to go to our website of truthbetold.org/transplant helper, you'll find all of these videos and such. You can even contact me via the contact button there, or I'm more than happy to take your calls. 256-773-1639. Thank you. Have a wonderful day and live stronger.